everybody. It's Ginger. I'm back to do Joshua chapter 6 with you. So, last time we did talk about the Israeli men being circumcised, and also the big thing in this, they're waiting to heal before they were across the Jordan, but God was not having them attack the city yet. So he had them, circumcised themselves, and then there was also the part where the man approached Joshua. Well, let me just read it. Okay, we're going to go back to chapter 5 for a minute, starting with verse 13. Now it came about when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" Joshua doesn't recognize this man, right? He said, "No, rather I indeed come now as captain of the hosts of the Lord." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and bowed down and said to him, "What has my Lord to say to his servant?" The captain of the Lord's host said to Joshua, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Now, this is a theophany where God shows up in the form of a man. And we compared that last week to when the Lord told Moses a very similar thing. So another evidence that we know it's a theophany, there's the comparing it to Moses, but also Joshua's response. Joshua fell on his face to the earth and bowed down, and says, "What has my Lord to say to his servant?" So fascinating theophany there. But now we're to chapter 6, which is the big one. It's where the walls of Jericho come down. So I was not able to find the picture I was thinking of, but I wonder, maybe I could show you just in this book right quick. But I want you to Google, you have homework, I want you to Google drawings of the city of Jericho. So artist renditions. Now, it's been excavated. And it's pretty fascinating. You can find pictures of the excavations as well. And it's pretty fascinating. I don't know if that picture's in here. Maybe I'm just dreaming. I saw it on the internet somewhere. But it was an artist's rendition of what Jericho was like. And you had 2 fortified walls, one 6 feet and one 12 feet, and it was up on a hill. So very hard city to conquer. And the walls kept people out, but it also kept people in. Remember, Rahab lived in the one of the walls, and I'm assuming maybe the 12-foot one, and she helped hide the Israeli spies. And they had agreed to save her, and she hung the red rope outside her window, symbolizing, again, the blood of Jesus, which saves us from our sins. So anyway, I think what I'll do is just read the whole thing. I might stop a couple times, but I want to read most of it, and it's 27 verses long. This is it's one of those things that you kind of have to ponder it, or you're not getting the whole wonderful picture of it, okay? Now, Jericho was tightly shut because of the sons of Israel. No one went out, and no one came in. The Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hand with its king and all the valiant warriors. You shall march around the city, all the men of war circling the city once. You shall do so for 6 days." I just do want to comment, I guess. I couldn't read the whole thing. Anyway, so the men are going to march into the city, or they're going to march around the city one time a day for 6 days. Okay. Also 7 priests shall carry 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. Then on the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. It shall be that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout. and the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people will go up, every man straight ahead. So the plan that the Lord gives them, that he gives Joshua, and Joshua gives the people, they go in, it's 7 days. It reminds me of creation when we did Genesis, okay? Seven being the number of completion. So they're going to march around the city one time a day for 6 days, and then the seventh day, 7 times. The priests are going to blow the trumpets, and at the long trumpet blast, the people are going to shout. Oh, we didn't even read that part yet. Yeah, the people will shout a great shout all together. The wall will come down. God is going to bring that wall down. Remember the commander of the army that Joshua met? That's the Lord. He's going to bring that wall down, and the people will go up and attack the city. Okay, let's go verse 6. So Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, "Take up the Ark of the Covenant, and let 7 priests carry 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Ark of the Lord." Then he said to the people, "Go forward and march around the city, and let the armed men go on before the Ark of the Lord." And it was so that when Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Lord went forward and blew the trumpets. And the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord followed them. The armed men went before the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark, while they continued to blow the trumpets. So they had a guard in the back. But Joshua commanded the people, saying, "You shall not shout or let your voice be heard, nor let a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I tell you shout. Then you shall shout." So they were very quiet and didn't say anything during this process of 6 days. So he had the Ark of the Lord taken around the city, circling it once. Then they came into the camp and spent the night in the camp. Now Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the Ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the Ark of the Lord went on continually and blew the trumpets. And the armed men went before them, and the rear guard came up after the Ark of the Lord, while they continued to blow the trumpets. Thus the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did so for 6 days. Okay, so they're following all the Lord's instructions. This is his plan. He's the commander, and so they're following the instructions that he's given Joshua. There's a lot of symbolism here, like the 7 is a day of completion, the days of creation. God rested from his work on the 7th day. And remember the Ark of the Covenant that goes before them. The armed men went before the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark. So it looks like the priests and the armed men went first, and then the ark, and then the rear guard. And they had the Ark of the Covenant. It's symbolic of God's presence, because he would actually come down one time a year on Yom Kippur and receive that blood that the priest sacrificed, that animal blood, as payment for sin for 1 year. Okay, this is before Jesus came. Okay, it's symbolic of Jesus and the sacrifice he would make. Okay, I'm going to start again with 15. Here's our big event here. Then on the 7th day they rose early at the dawning of the day and marched around the city in the same manner 7 times. Only on that day, they marched around the city 7 times. The prior 6 days, it was 1 time. At the 7th, now the city, can't remember how big it was. I don't remember. But picture 2 big walls around the city, and it's up on a hill. Very difficult to attack. Okay, even though it was up on a hill, it was still below sea level. It was like 800 feet below sea level. At that time, when the priests blew the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." I don't know what they shouted, though. I'm so curious about that. What did they shout? Or did they just yell, make a noise? "The city shall be under the ban, it and all that it belongs, and all in it. The city shall be under the ban, it and all that is in it belongs to the Lord. Only Rahab the harlot and all who are with her in the house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent. But as for you, only keep yourselves from the things under the ban, so that you do not covet them and take some of the things under the ban, and make the camp of Israel accursed, and bring trouble on it. But all the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord. They shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So the treasury of the Lord, they could keep the gold and silver and bronze for that, but everything else was going to be destroyed. They weren't allowed to take it. So the people shouted, and I want to know what they shouted, or how they shouted. I guess I want to hear that. And priests blew the trumpets, and when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight ahead, and they took the city. I think I read somewhere, if I remember right, that when they excavated a lot of this, they did find just flat. I think it did fall flat. They have evidence of that. So we have the biblical word, of course, but we also have physical evidence of that. So the people shouted, and the priests blew the trumpets, and when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, the people shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight ahead, and they took the city. So once the walls fell, they rushed that city. It's bloody. This is a bloody situation, okay? They utterly destroyed everything in the city, both man and woman, young and old, and ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of a sword. Joshua said to the two men who had spied out the land, "Go into the harlot's house, Rahab, and bring the woman and all she has out of here, as you have sworn to her." So they rushed right in to get the harlot, Rahab, and her family, and save them. And it was the spies that she was protecting that went in to save her. I'm sure they noticed the red robe, and they knew her. So it was proper for them to be the ones to go get her. They knew how to find her. So the young men who were spies went in and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all she had. They also brought out all her relatives and placed them outside the camp of Israel. They burned the city with fire and all that was in it. Only the silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. However, Rahab the harlot and her father's household and all she had, Joshua spared. And she has lived in the midst of Israel to this day, for she hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. She lived there from the time up into the time this was written, and who knows how much longer. Then Joshua made them take an oath at that time, saying, "Cursed before the Lord is the man who rises up and builds the city Jericho. With the loss of his firstborn he shall lay its foundation, and with the loss of his youngest son shall he set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. Okay, let's talk about it a little bit. Just that part I just read, Joshua made Rahab and her family take an oath that they would not try to rebuild this city. And I love to listen to the Calvary Chapel pastor from Denver, South Denver Calvary Chapel. And he was talking about this, and he said, he mentioned how, when the Egyptians were, when the Hebrews were set free, Moses led the people out of Egypt. Some of them were tempted to go back, they were tempted to go back. And I don't know, he mentioned that maybe some of these relatives of Rahab needed to be warned because they might be tempted to rebuild their city or whatever. So I thought that was an important point. This is a really bloody battle, and the same pastor I'm talking about, I don't remember his name. I don't know his name. I just listened to him. I don't know his name. He doesn't introduce himself before the sermon, so online anyway. So anyway, when they rush in under the command of the Lord after the walls fall down, they kill everyone in the city except Rahab and her family, and they burn the city. So, the pastor from Calvary Chapel mentioned that some people might think, "Oh, how could a loving God do that?" And first of all, most people misunderstand God. They don't see him as he is. We live in such a politically correct society, and nobody wants judgment for any sin. And these people in Jericho were wicked. They were wicked people. And yeah, I tried to research a little bit of some of the wickedness that was going on there. I think it was pretty bad. It reminded me of when God destroyed the whole world with a flood. Because, like with Noah, he and his family were really the only righteous people. And they were righteous by faith. They were righteous by faith. And Rahab was righteous by faith. She believed in the Lord. And that's why she protected these spies. Let me read to you from Hebrews, which is in the New Testament. It's that famous faith chapter. Some of you might have read it before. But if not, I will read just this little part to you. And this is in Hebrews chapter 11. And I'm going to read to you. It talks about a lot of people of faith. And you know, it was faith that brought those walls down. They didn't tear the walls down. The Lord brought those walls down and gave the city to them. Now, they had to do what he said. They had to take it. But they couldn't have done it on their own. Let me read to you verses 30 and 31 from chapter 11 of Hebrews. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they had been encircled for 7 days. By faith, Rahab the harlot did not perish along with those who were disobedient after she had welcomed the spies in peace. You know, if you welcome God's people, you know, I think it says somewhere, like Jesus said, you know, you welcome me. If you welcome, you know. But anyway, so those walls came down by faith, and Rahab was saved by faith. And we are saved from our sins by faith in Jesus Christ. He saves with his blood all who believe, all who trust in him. So anyway, it wasn't, you know, they took steps of faith. They did what the Lord said by marching around that city, by shouting that great shout, and those walls came tumbling down. And we can have life lessons from this. A lot of things we have to conquer in life, the Lord will conquer on our behalf if we do what he leads us to do. So anyway, yeah, this is just so incredible. And I wish that we could really, really just picture it, because I think it was just awesome and massive. But anyway, you know, people who say, how could a loving God do this to innocent people? They're not innocent people. And Rahab came out of that city, and she became one of the ancestors of Jesus Christ. So she obviously married into the Jewish faith, and she became one of the ancestors of Jesus Christ and is listed in his genealogy. So one of very few women who are. So she became a believer and became an ancestor of Jesus Christ. So anyway, this is just an incredible story, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to tell you. Yeah, Joshua became more famous. So they burned the city with fire. Only the gold, bronze, and silver went to the house of the Lord. Everything else was utterly destroyed. And like I said, you can Google some of the photos of the excavations they've done of it. I was in Jericho or near Jericho way back in the 90s when I went to Israel, and I don't, you know, I must not have seen much of this, or maybe more has been excavated since then. I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember going to a nearby Roman gladiator theater, and it was really in good shape, and we were just sitting there in the gladiator, you know, stands, and picturing what it would be like to watch a gladiator show, a gladiator fight, and inside the ring there. But anyway, yeah, the walls of Jericho came down by the commander, the Lord, and the people after that rushed in and took that city, destroying everyone in it, every animal, every human being except Rahab and her loved ones. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and if I think of any more, really, I'm kind of tired. I've been tired every single one of these this time, but if I think of any more, I'll share it next time. I do 3 studies on and 1 off. So 3 weeks in a row I do one, and then I'm 1 off. This is chapter 6, so next week I won't post one. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day or a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next time.